I want to talk to you about one of my favorite books by one of my favorite people, one of my idols, one of my role models, someone I look up to, the big homie, Ray Dalio. Ray Dalio wrote a book called Principles, and it's basically half autobiography, half ideas and principles that have helped him become one of the richest men in the world and to grow the largest hedge fund of all time, Bridgewater Capital. Yeah, I read this book shortly after it came out. Liked it so much I bought it again in 2020. I want to break down to you some of my main takeaways, and I think they can potentially benefit you. Now, I do suggest you read the book. Click the link and buy it because it's a fantastic read. It's broken down into a few different parts. So in the beginning, part one, Ray is talking about his life and how he became a balling ass, shot calling ass motherfucker, becoming one of the richest men of all time in reality and building the largest hedge fund ever. He talked about how he lost all his money, man. This motherfucker had went broke. He had to lay off all his employees and he had to borrow money from his father-in-law to fucking survive for a few months because he went like so broke because he made a big bet on a stock market crash that didn't happen. There's a lot of lessons learned from that. Just imagine that. Like some of you guys are scared to start a website business or spend $1,000 on something, and this motherfucker lost a few billion, had to go to his mama's daddy for some money. Yeah, that's white privilege right there. I wonder what would happen if I started struggling and I asked my girl's dad for some money. My favorite part is part two of the book where he talks about his life principles. And one of the main things is what he called his 5-step process. And it looks kind of like this. So it looked kind of like, okay, that's good enough. You set what he called audacious goals. Right, we ain't setting regular goals. Oh, I'm gonna live another year. Nah, man, audacious goals, like really go for something. That's step one of his 5-step process. Followed by, and it's funny he mentioned this, right? Failure, right? So a lot of times people are afraid of failure, but what Ray talks about is actually embracing it and expecting it as actually part of the process. I mean, so many people who are scared to start a business or scared to do something new or scared to talk to a girl or scared to post a YouTube video or whatever, they're afraid of failure. You need that failure. It's actually part of the process because once you have that failure, then you reflect, which is part of the learning process. And you have to reflect on why you fucked up, learning the principle. And that's when you reflect on your failure, right? Then after that, step 3 is improving. You set a goal, you encounter some failures, maybe some setback, which is part of the process, not something to be scared of. It is actually part of it. You learn from that shit, then you improve. Then you set more audacious goals. And that's the 5-step process. Because according to Ray, it should always be doing that, spiraling up. But you got to keep going through the process, no matter what the fuck you got going on. I just found it super helpful because it allowed me not to fear the failure part of it, because now I understand, oh, this is actually part of the process. Like you have to encounter failure, you have to encounter setbacks, you have to encounter trials and tribulations. And now I kind of expected, after reading this book, one of the takeaways is I never expected things to just go easy or things to work the first time I do them. I know that I'm gonna encounter some setbacks, right? But then, once you learn from that, that's the only way you can improve. And then after you improve, you can start setting bigger goals. It's really my favorite part of the book. And Ray went on to talk about his failures. So when he lost all this motherfucking money and had to ask his daddy-in-law for some bread, he said it had not been from what he learned from those failures, he wouldn't have been able to build the biggest, largest hedge fund of all time. But it never stops. You're gonna set more goals and you're gonna fail again. You're gonna fail again. I'm actually failing all the time. Like I make mistakes, I have setbacks all the time. I had some today, right? But I learned from those. I'm in the improving process of the failures I had today. And it's like that with everything. And if you just keep that in mind, it takes away the fear. So if you're scared of failure, just know, hey man, you're supposed to fail, bro. It's not supposed to be easy. You're not gonna set a big ass goal and just expect it to go easy, man. NASA had fucking spaceships blow up and explode. Niggas died and shit. But now we send them motherfuckers to the moon. They had to learn from those failures. It's like that with everything. I saw this one clip of this girl. She won a beauty pageant in her state. I forget which state. And she tried like 20 times or something. She kept failing over and over again. But then she went back to the drawing board, kept improving. She eventually went and became Miss America. Had she just gave up after the first time, instead of learning and trying again, she'd have never been Miss America. I talk to people all the time and they say, oh yeah, man, I tried that. I'm like, how many times you tried? Oh, once or twice. I'm like, well, fuck it. That's not enough. to get data. You should be excited to fail. According to Ray Dalio, it's part of the process. Michael Jordan, he kept going to the NBA playoffs and he kept getting beat by the Detroit Pistons. It was called the Bad Boy Pistons. He lost to them twice in a row. Pistons won the championship. After the second time, he said, man, I'm sick of this shit. And he realized that the way they played basketball, but they would really like be fucking him up, real physical game. And Jordan was skinny at the time. And what he realized after those failures is, oh man, I need to get stronger. And what he do, he improved. He hired Tim Grover to be his coach. He put on a bunch of muscle, got stronger. Next thing you know, boom, 6 championships, right? It was part of the process. Those Detroit Pistons made Michael Jordan. Like he wouldn't have been as tough had it not been for them. You need that process. You know, there's other stuff about the book that's really good, but this was my favorite part. Honestly, I highly suggest you read it. Ray has some other books, but that's the best one. That's the best one. It's one of my favorite books of all time. Something I come back to every time I'm in this zone. I think, you know what, nah. When you lose, don't lose the lesson. And you learn the lesson and then you improve and then you get back after it and it sets some more goals. Happens all the time. It's supposed to happen. You're supposed to fail. You're supposed to get knocked down and then you get back up and get after it. All right, check the book out.